Well, as per some research done by HubSpot, 82% of customers actually expect an immediate response on sales. And as per Facebook, 65% of customers prefer chatting than calling a business. And Juniper research really says that the combined cost savings by 2023 of the entire chatbot opportunity should be about $11 billion, and that's across all domains and all segments. However, really to test this hypothesis in the financial services and the insurance space, I went to the website of a reputed life insurance company the other day to buy a policy. And lo and behold, they said that I had to dial a toll-free number and then speak to a live agent. And the very thought that, look, I would get this very familiar message that that I would be put on hold, and the message would be that all our lines are busy. Your call is very important to us, and our representative will be with you shortly. And that was to ring in my ears for about 30 minutes. And I really wondered, if it was possible for me to get this done without talking to anyone on the telephone. Now, isn't this a very, very familiar story? Well, friends, to discuss the topic of digital disruption and conversational AI in financial services, insurance, and banking, I have with me today Banesh Prabhu. Banesh is the CEO of iSEEC at Intellect Design Arena. Banesh was also formerly the Senior Citibank International Operations and Technology Head. Banesh brings with him significant knowledge and expertise in financial services, banking, insurance, and fintech. I also have with me today Antoine Paillusseau, who is the co-founder and CEO at FinChatBot, which is a fintech company. And I'm told that FinChatBot is now going places with offices in South Africa, France, Portugal, UK, and many more along the way. Well, Banesh, just to get you into the conversation, digital transformation has sort of, been the buzzword for actually a number of years, in the banking, financial services, and in the insurance space. And actually COVID-19 has made, these companies actually press the accelerator. So really, there are two areas that I wanted to hear your thoughts. First is it would be really great to hear your thoughts around, specific areas of digital transformation that are taking place, thanks to COVID. And, a lot of things have actually happened in the last 18 months, but a few more things are expected perhaps to happen. And secondly, COVID has also given a boost to how artificial intelligence is playing a role in customer engagements like, customer acquisition, servicing, collections, and so on. So would really be great to hear your insights on this.
No, thank you. Thank you, Thomas. I know we've sort of had the opportunity to know each other for many, many years. So sort of look forward to this chat. It's an interesting space that COVID-19 has brought to what was already started off as a key effort across the world with, I would call, digital transformation. But if I sort of spell it out into maybe 3 or 4 key themes around it, right? I think the first one that was started quite some time back, but has got huge acceleration, is the one related to technology, which has got 2 sort of broad legs to it from a pure technical angle, which is the cloud. And the second is what was already started with very open architecture, partly driven in some markets through what we would call open banking, which is sort of touching different areas of financial services, not just banking, over a period of time. But I think the architecture's open sort of ability to connect through APIs and technically with external sort of entities, many different fintechs, I think has become far more relevant. And why is that relevant? Because cloud brings a lot of infrastructure scalability. It also brings the ability to be agile and connect to different fintechs much easier with that open architecture than having to do it in your own data centers. And of course, it's very much more cost effective when it comes to infra cost and scalability type of areas. So clearly, the cloud and the open sort of technology architecture push has become more relevant than ever before to any type of industry. The second thing we've seen, obviously, is this whole work from home situation has sort of enabled significant change in the way we all operate. And it's also the way customers would operate for financial services that comes into the picture. And I think clearly whatever was happening on the mobile, on the desktop from an online capability has gone further enhanced significantly. So I think there is this big sort of, I would call it, speed that has been sort of created during this time because of COVID that's really accelerated the digital journey. And from a channel point of view, you touched on the chat process. I think we've seen transition in technology. It took several years to bring in certain markets, in certain emerging markets, things like ATMs. Today they're common fold. As a matter of fact, they're closing many because cash is becoming less relevant. We've seen the transition to away from branches to call centers and to IVRs. And then we've seen the creation of the thanks to the .com time, the whole creation of the internet and doing a lot on the online platforms. And thanks to the App Store and to the mobile sort of creation, the mobile has become the go-to sort of mobile first type device. Right. Now, over that period of time, a couple more things have happened and COVID has accelerated that. I think clearly we are seeing chat. Yeah. And with chat comes an interesting combination of digital solutions, whether it's cloud, whether it's the open technology architecture that goes with chat. So chat is going to help drive greater efficiency, both from decisioning as well as intelligence. Now, when you talk about intelligence, then the other element that's critical, which is arguably kick-started but has got a long way to go still, is the whole piece around data and AI and how the platforms are made more more contextual, more personalized for the customer at the right time, at the right place, and personalized enough for them to be able to do it with a great experience. I think a lot of the user journeys are about functionality and capabilities, and they've been great in working on navigation. But I think the chat is the next level around that experience. Arguably, the one that's also beginning to knock on the doors is voice recognition and doing things more than chat from just from your voice. And I think we are seeing a lot of acceleration around those technologies, and therefore it changes the customer interaction and customer experience like never before. So I think that is the type of theme that is coming across. It's infrastructure, it's digital, user journeys where customers can do things from home, can do things from anywhere, anytime, 24/7. Data being contextualized, and the only other piece that you have to continuously watch is, of course, the cybersecurity and the security and privacy around this. I think that is also coming together, and there's a lot of things going on in that. So I would say broadly these are themes. So I don't know whether there are any thoughts around those.
No, absolutely, Banesh. I think great points, and let me just get in Antoine now. So, Antoine, I know you've done a lot of work in Africa and Europe, and now yes. in the Middle East and some other areas and places as well. So, what are some trends that you're seeing as far as digital transformation is concerned, and of course you're in the chatbot business as well. So, are there any specific use cases that you feel are also gaining ground in your view?
Yes, we're seeing really three core use cases that are coming over and over, and some are really accelerated due to the pandemic and the challenges that it created for, let's say, call centers and more human operation driven type of process or system. So right. The three core that we see are a clear focus in optimizing acquisition. So right. How to enhance the sales process. In our case, we work a lot with financial institutions. That's where we provide most of our use cases. So acquisition is how to, as Banesh was saying, personalize better, engage better, create a more unique experience for different type of audiences while trying to sell the same product or a slightly adapted product. Right. Enabling the channel availability, very important. Instead of forcing a specific audience to go on a specific journey, is enabling that experience across multiple channels where they feel comfortable. And really facilitating this process when someone wants to purchase the product, subscribe to the product, being able to deliver the full fulfillment in a very short space of time. So integrating the KYC type of capabilities, multiple payment options to give reassurance to the user that they can use something they know. Digital signature integrated in the process. We've seen quite a bit of optimization in that field. So that's the first pillar. The second one is around customer service. So we've seen a lot of use cases for many years before even we started our company in 2016 around what we call FAQ. So frequently asked questions, those little chatbots that pops up and you can ask question and hope for an answer. I think now the technology has progressed a lot. There's a lot of data set available to contextualize and provide a better experience. But what we see is not only providing FAQ, but providing what we call dynamic FAQ or transactional FAQ. So once you understand what is the query of the user, being able to finish the query within the same window without a break in the customer experience, without having to download or log somewhere else, doing the desired action in the same window in, again, a very short space of time. So that's the second pillar. And the third one that we see is around recovery, helping businesses to engage better with the customer, to recover an account, a premium that has not been paid, or a payment that was missed, being able to not have an operational cost center to deliver that. But one that I'm really, really excited is the retention side. In the financial space, retention is critical. So how to upsell, how to cross-sell. And often this is a very cumbersome process, very manual process to deliver. It's in the insurance space, it's very much managed by brokers, so intermediary type of businesses. And the issue is brokers don't really have time, nor they do it historically, to engage with their customers regularly. In average, globally, they engage once a year with their customer, which means in a year, in 12 months, many things can happen. Like, just remember 12 months ago, we were in lockdown. 12 months before that, we never heard of COVID. So a lot of things can happen in 12 months. Therefore, engaging constantly to understand better the future life events are critical in the financial space. So are you thinking of buying a new house? Yes, cool. So we're going to need to take you and help you to choose the right insurance product for your house. Are you buying a new car? Do you want to have a funeral cover or life policy? All of those can be prepared. And instead of considering financial industry as a reaction industry, they always react to an event, react to a loss, react to a claim. Being more in a planning environment, understanding and knowing better the audience to provide the best service. That's the three trend: acquisition, service, retention, recovery.
Yeah, thanks, sir. So Banesh, I just wanted to have a conversation closer to home, which is in India. We've seen several banks and insurance companies implement chatbot solutions, but somehow the sense that I get is that they tend to fall by the wayside. And I don't know what the situation is around the world, but in India, sometimes I feel that some of these banks and insurance companies may look at it as a nice to have and not a need to have for whatever reasons. And it's also about, if my competitors have it, then I should also have it. In fact, I was attending a webinar recently of some CIOs of leading banks and insurance companies, and I got the feeling that they were not fully with it, and they had one foot in the old world economy, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that sometimes if your main context is brick and mortar, right, then making that transition to digital is quite a challenge. Unless you are a digital first kind of an operation. So,
Yeah.
Banesh, really, what are your thoughts around why are
Yeah.
traditional banks and insurance companies,
Yeah.
not able to be more strategic in conversational AI to acquire and service customers?
Yeah, so I think it's a good point. I mean, firstly, from a customer perspective, the customer is going to adopt something that's going to fulfill their need. Now, unless of course you are forced to go to a call center and wait for 30 minutes as you started the call on, right,
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
you don't have a choice, so you went there. Now, arguably, they should have the ability to do mobile, desktop, so that you don't get to the call. Now, there are more mature businesses around the world
Yeah.
that are seeing call center volumes significantly going down, okay,
Yeah.
because customers are doing things more digitally than ever before. To the extent that there's enough news about branches closing and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because even advisory activities which used to be sort of face to face are being done in a work from sort of home perspective, whether it's wealth management or whatever areas. So I think the first thing is the customer is clearly the king in this game, and if they feel
Right.
comfortable that your chat is of quality, I'm going to do it. Okay, I'm going to use it, I'm going to adopt it, and whoever doesn't play is going to go by the wayside. So that's one side of the equation, which is the customer. The second side of the equation is for either existing financial institutions, whether it's insurance, banking, or whatever, lending, etc. I think, and you brought out India and you brought out around the world. Now, there's some great things with the India stack that's working great, particularly payments. There are good progression beginning to sort of happen on the credit and the credit decisioning and the credit side, but still some distance to go. I think insurance is doing good entry level stuff, but has a long way to go to fully get to that level where you are truly paperless, you are truly, documents can be shared electronically, operations can be bringing in new technologies to be able to extract data from documents and be taking decisions for you and stuff like that, which is something we in Intellect SEEC have been working a lot on to streamline the whole operations on one hand and the intelligence on the other hand. But what are some of the sort of pitfalls? So if you're a born on the cloud or a new institution, you start with a different approach.
Yeah.
But if you are an institution that is sort of moving to the cloud, the DNA of that movement, and the culture around that organization, its legacy architectures, you need to get the open architectural road in place so that you can connect to not just fintechs, but to ecosystems very easily, so that you can do an end-to-end journey differently. And I think we sometimes struggle with the BAU challenges along with this new track, if I may use the term, and the ability to coexist in this track has made progress in some areas, particularly functionality on the mobile and a lot of good things have happened. But in new technologies, particularly where you moved from the digital age to the information age, there's a big change that's taken place. We've already well moved into the information age, but our quality of data, the extent of the attention to data and the fact that it's all over the place very often with these legacy, platforms, don't give you the right quality to be able to service the customer in such a way that the customer can adopt it. So unless you fix your sort of infra properly to deliver some of these new digital information age type of solutions, you're always going to not get the customer to feel good and he's not going to experience it. Remember, this is not limited to financial services. The other day I wanted to cancel some tickets on an airline because of changes in COVID. They show chat, but when they actually do the chat, it's sort of, there's a lot of dead end stuff happening there. It's not an experience that makes me comfortable. As a result, I'm forced finally to call because the end-to-end user journey wasn't available on the desktop. Now, arguably, for an airline with all the pressures, right, you would have said, hey, you know what? I want to streamline digital and reduce my cost of call centers and try and improve my efficiency. But I think that change, I think everybody knows that they need to change. It's awfully tough to execute it, and you need to have a much clearer approach to executing it.
Right.
And we at least believe that using some design thinking principles on prioritizing, choosing the most important things, identifying the key differentiator for the customer, what we call is the last 2%, which is worth 200%, identifying that, focusing on that, those are the type of things that's going to make them change. Otherwise, they're going to be, constantly running BAU and trying to change. And, I think they all believe it, but executing it is not that easy.
Yeah. So Antoine, what does it take to really make conversational AI more end-to-end? And I mean, we've spoken about discussed about some broken journeys and so on. So is it possible to do away with, are we evolving, or will we evolve to a stage where we can do away with human interaction fully? And, maybe an example of one complex case, right, where, which can be handled without human intervention even today.
Yeah, I think Banesh was making a really interesting point, and just to highlight that in our view, it's not anymore only about which technology, which platform do you use. There is this real look into the customer experience and the business hat in this whole process. How can we satisfy the customer? It's not only about having the best AI algorithm, but it's also thinking from a customer point of view, what does the customer want and how to achieve that. So it's really important that, whatever we're trying to build, it's not a strict picture at a certain time, which is generally in the conception phase. We take a picture, we okay, we want to develop this project to solve this issue, but this project has to move, has to live and be iterated very, very quickly. And that's why we're trying to have a first conception of a project that is very short, where we spend as little time as possible defining an objective in a boardroom, but we'd rather have the live data and have a full team, business and technology, looking at the data and optimizing the project very, very quickly. That's how you get the best progression and the best satisfaction. And it's often forgotten. So to come back to your question around how we put that together, we pretty much try to combine different expertise. We're designing at the moment what we call our marketplace, that has a number of capabilities already pre-connected, hence the short time to market that we have. So we work with Intellect, we work with KYC partners like TransUnion, very, very strong in India and a number of countries around the world. We work with digital signature provider. So all the different required steps to deliver a customer experience, we try to connect different partners that are very niche, very expert. They know very well how to do it. Sometimes they already work with our clients. So it's just a matter of setting up the solution in a WhatsApp environment, web chat, Facebook Messenger, and delivering an experience. So one experience that we currently designing for a big European bank is opening a bank account on WhatsApp. So that use case seems simple in Word. Opening an account shouldn't be too complicated, but requires quite a number of checks. So the first one is identifying the customer, verifying its identity by KYC, so eKYC. So verifying via video selfie with the OCR of their passport and comparing that to make sure it's the right person. A proof of residence, so making sure we have the right address, that this proof of residence corresponds to the passport, and all those checks are done in the background while engaging with the customer. While we adding at the moment some gamification engagement to educate, explain a bit more what we're trying to sell while doing the necessary check, but not pausing the experience and you wait, and then sometimes it breaks and then it fails, and that's frustrating. So always trying to guide the user to a journey that can satisfy. And the goal is to be able to open a bank account in less than 2 minutes on WhatsApp. That's what we're trying to develop.
Right, great. So I think both Banesh, you spoke about ecosystem, and Antoine spoke about a marketplace. So this really leads me to an article that I read this morning in the Economic Times. And I'll just read a couple of lines of that. And this was titled "Banks and Fintech Startups Can't Do Without Each Other." Right. And I'll just read a couple of lines. It says, digital coverage can be expanded if financial firms work with tech companies to build the right ecosystem. Traditional banks and new age fintech companies will have to co-create in order to build an inclusive financial ecosystem where digitization of the consumer economy is fast evolving as the defining trend of the times. So while legacy financial institutions have digitized their interface as well as their operations, the emergence of fintech startups have made it necessary for incumbents to accelerate the pace of digital transition. Yeah. So Banesh, would be great to hear your thoughts around, I mean, you did touch upon it, but around the development of the fintech ecosystem, and therefore also what it holds to a complete go-to-market strategy for these fintech solutions. Because very often, how can point solutions keep going to banks and insurance companies? So there's also an entire go-to-market strategy that can perhaps evolve around the whole thing. So it'll be good to hear your thoughts and any specific example that perhaps comes to your mind.
Yeah. So one or two thoughts first, and we can cover some examples if needed. I think the first important thing that fintechs very often bring is a great area of focus. They clearly know, for example, we just now heard about in 2 minutes, right? That is a onboarding journey, which is critical. And if you want to do something very well, there's a tendency, some of the things we do is too broad-based. I think it's important to stay very focused. That's one of the powers, and do such a good job with it. Now, if you say, I have actually, and each onboarding journey in different geographies in different countries has slight differences. Okay. Now, as an example, if I am ready for a particular country, I also need that particular user journey to be agile, almost like a cartridge or a container type thing, which can very easily be implemented with any institution into their end-to-end operational flow or workflow or whatever you want to call it. And I think, therefore, the ability to be able to stay focused, because there's so many thousands of journeys you could get into and you lose focus. I think you've got to find key items. Again, in design thinking, we would say, identify your 1,000-gram items, your 100-gram items, 10-gram items. If you spend a lot of time on hundreds and tens and you forget enough attention on the thousands, you're lost. So define what is your 1,000, go after it clearly, create the ability to be agile, have a ready pack for customers. Now, that's easy to say. Now, to implement that, I'm assuming the architecture, is open enough. Today, ecosystems are good enough for most institutions to connect to this and to build it into their flow. But some of the inputs required involve some quality of data and information. So, we got to ensure that some of that cleanliness of that, of that accuracy of information, the relevance of information is also available. So there are some things required, and some things traditionally need to be fixed. So I think it's about scoping it properly and going to it, I think, both from the fintech side as well as for the institution, because if the institution starts messing around with their legacy to do this kind of thing, they'll never get it done, easily enough for a long time. So it's better to connect to third parties and build that journey in that way. So I think it's about focus, really, in my mind, from a go-to-market perspective.
Right. Okay, great.
If I can add, Thomas, if I can add to that, I think for me, it's so critical to be able to work with partners like Intellect, and whether we are the main point of contact or Intellect in this case is the main point of contact with the customer. I think for us, we see more and more big organization, big financial institution struggling to work with one partner doing one thing. They want now to have one point of contact that is able to guide them through this digital transformation journey to choose the right partner with the right expertise, but one account, you know what I mean? And for us, start combining forces and having this package that is plug and play with the Intellect Design team, our expertise, and going in full force to a client is so much more powerful than just coming ourselves in the small door to try to do X, Y, and Z. So just wanted to add
sure.
that.
Yeah, sure, Antoine. Well, you did answer part of what I was going to ask you, but maybe so have you actually done any co-creation elsewhere so far? Because co-creation is a big thing right now, which is coming out. So any one specific example, quick example that you can think of?
So the one I could highlight would be in the claim space in insurance sector, where we had to combine a certain amount of expertise with certain partners. We were not the main point of contact in the client, and we had this technology decision to make, including internal technology already available, like KYC validation of the identity. We had an external technology to scan the car, so for car insurance, the car damages, being able to recognize the scratches and the damages in the car, and put that all together into a conversational solution. So we didn't provide one single aspect. We provided the full ecosystem. The objective was to be able to do a first loss claim that includes a certain amount of step, KYC the person, identifying the damages of the car, whether it's needs an assistant and an assessor, or just can be managed digitally. And validating the process. So that had different point of integration, external party, internal backend systems, as well as interaction with the users and uploading quite a bit of elements.
Yeah, great. So finally, I think a very important question which a lot of customers will perhaps ask in due course. Maybe they haven't asked it right now because they have to make the investments to transform, because they had to move their brick and mortar businesses online rapidly overnight and over the last several months. So perhaps it was imperative for them to do an investment. And a lot of CIOs that I have spoken to have said that getting funding in the last 18 months has been easiest for us, because the leadership had to make changes. But going forward, Banesh, I guess companies, banks, insurance companies would need to start looking at ROI, right? Because there's so much of fintech out there, right? I mean, what all will they invest in, right? So how do you think? So do you think that is it important firstly to look at ROI? And if yes, then at what stage?
No, first of all, it's good to look at ROI. But if somebody else is coming and taking all your business, okay,
yeah,
the revenue there itself is at risk. So, when you do your business plan, this is not about, you can't be standing in the same place. There's way too many dimensions of things happening around you. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of, sort of banking type of accounts moving to different kind of providers, whether it's wallets or, different kind of, in some markets, payment banks, in some markets, digital banks, and so on. So there's a lot of the low-cost funds making its move to different directions. So I think definitely ROI is important, but you're going to have to look at your business in a very different model. Like today, the lending businesses, where in the past we all believed, the interest on what you lend versus the interest on your deposits is your spread. And then you have something like BNPL come in, where the customer is actually not paying anything more, but just paying in installments. And you wonder, where is the APR, right? What's happening to all the high APR lending and card businesses? But that whole model is different. So that whole model of sharing in the in the commission on the product between the bank taking the credit risk and the whole flow is very different. The front end to this, the customer is owned by an ecosystem or a big tech player. So I think, models are changing. And I think the ability to look at return on investments, is clearly important. And at the same time, banks are flushed with funds too because of all the liquidity going on. So I think, and they're not paying too much for those deposits either. So the question really is, how do you look at all of this?
Right.
Okay, and continue to do the investments in. And so just like the fintech needs focus on what it offers, the banks need focus on what they really want to do and what is critical for them in their respective markets, because they're getting disrupted, quite significantly. And of course, for the tech companies, including Intellect, that's also been in this transition over several decades on its products, and it has over 200 plus customers around the world. The question is that even as a tech company, we see needing to support our clients who have legacies, progressively modernize them on one hand, some moving faster than others. And then you have this new track of capabilities around data and open APIs and cloud architecture, etc. So there's a variety of things happening even within the tech companies to continuously keep pace with change.
That's right.
So I think there's a multiple set of variables, but clearly there's an ROI from all angles. But you got to look at potential risk to your business also, because it's not only about growing your business; it's about even sometimes surviving and keeping it.
Yeah, no, I think that is very well said. While it's important to look at ROI, but the risks associated with a business which is getting very competitive with a lot of neo-banks, neo-insurance businesses and all coming in is extremely high. So Antoine, how would you calculate and position ROI? Do you at all do that, or is this something that your customers ask for?
Super interesting question. So on our side, we decided to transform the way we were charging our customers, as opposed to being just a software provider that charges a setup fee and then management fees and then potential usage fees. We decided to create a model based on performances. So clearly, bottom line, return on investment. And if our solution delivers its promises, therefore we get paid. If it doesn't deliver, then there's much less value for us, and the big picture is not achieved. So for us as a business, we transformed our economic model to include this performance-driven model. It's actually our motto, performance-driven solutions. Where we connect the engagement, we always say we happen to use conversational AI to achieve a business objective. We're not a chatbot business. We deliver a return on investment on a specific use case, and to do that, we happen to use a chatbot technology.
Yeah, great.
Just to add to that, right? I think that's a great point. I think the world has moved to subscription payments. So the investment from a return on investment in technology versus the old models where you had significant investment in infrastructure in your data centers, you paid license on software. You moved away to a cloud pay-as-you-go model on one way from the infra perspective. And on the other perspective, it's very much subscription. Now, subscription could be a variety of ways. It could be on performance. It could be on number of customers. Could be on, revenue growth. Or it is depending on what area. So whole model of making change happen has also got, significantly changed from a return on investment. So it's not like you need huge investments to do this. More importantly, you need the right culture and the right focus to make it happen. So it's more executional than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's very well said, Banesh, because I think the subscription model makes it far more affordable for anyone to onboard a new investment as well. So great. We've come to the top of our conversation. Thank you so much, Banesh. Thank you so much, Antoine, for your time. And I think this was a fantastic conversation. I think we covered a range of topics. It was high energy, and I was really excited, and I've learned a lot of new things as well. Yeah. So thanks so much, folks. And thank you so much to all our viewers. We are right now live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. And continue subscribe. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more such great videos. And thank you so much, folks. And to all our viewers, stay safe and stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you.